Good morning, everybody. Hello, hello, hello. It is another day. Good morning. How are you this morning? Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Hey, Robin Carden. Hi, Donna. Good morning. Sunny here. Beautiful here, too. It is gorgeous. Hey, Jamie. Good to see you. Hope you're doing okay. Good morning, Irene. Glad you're with us. Glad you're here. Hope you're having a good day. Things are well. Good morning. Good morning. It is. We are. Good morning. Hey, good morning, Sharon. Yeah, yeah. Big coffee cup today. Really big. Huge. Oh, there is not enough coffee this morning. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, John. Great to see you here. Hope you're well. I hope the um, things are still busy for you in these days, and that you're getting a lot of work. I hope that's happening. Welcome, everybody. Taking a look here, seeing some more folks come in. So, get one more. How is everybody? It is a gorgeous day here. It is. This is. I don't know if you can call it Indian summer, but it sure feels like it is. 70 degrees with a light breeze. It is just lovely, and I think we're gonna have a few days of it. So we are feeling lucky, particularly after the last week or so of pretty good cold. So it is this this mid fall action that's going on. It's pretty great, um, and the beauty of creation that's circling around. Um, there's a lot of goodness in it. A lot of goodness in it. So good morning, everybody. It is this day, the 5th of November, Thursday. And I could not resist reading you some poetry this morning because of this story that I want to talk about today. And it is this story of the 5th of November. But before we do, I want to ask you for some prayers that this morning. Hey, good morning, Vicky. Good morning. Is it wrong that I talk like you? I talk like you can hear me. I hope that you should talk like you can hear me. Absolutely. Like I think that's right. So I think we're close like that now. We've been doing this some months. So totally you should talk like that. Um, really nice here too. Oh, that's great. I just before we get started today, I wanted to ask your prayers. One of our deacons, Bob Guinan here, is has to put down his dog today, and for those of you who've been through that and know what that's like, it is an awful experience, and his heart is heavy. And little Tina. Gave a great life to, and they were close, and is super old and has lived well, but it is a hard to say goodbye. So if you can say a prayer for Bob today, as they are grieving he and Paige, that'd be terrific. So um, that we can hold each other in these times and these days, even if we're not face to face. But I hope you'll keep talking just like I'm there because I like that. So it is the 5th of November, and I want to read you this poem from uh, that made this day famous. Because this is what is known as Guy Fawkes Day in England, and this is the poem that commemorates it. Remember, remember the 5th of November, the gunpowder treason and plot. I know of no reason why the gunpowder treason should ever be forgot. Guy Fawkes, 'twas his intent to blow up the king in Parliament, 60 barrels of powder below, to prove old England's overthrow. By God's providence he was catched, with a dark lantern and a burning match. Holla boys, let the bells ring. Holla boys, God save the king. And what should we do with him? Burn him. And that is the origin of what is known as Guy Fawkes Day. And it's still commemorated to right now. Guy Fawkes, if you don't know the story, in 1605, Guy Fawkes and his compatriots. Now, Guy Fawkes was just the trigger man. Because he was the trigger man, he's the one who ended up becoming famous for the act of trying to blow up Parliament and the king. You see, the king, Henry VIII, sometime before, had declared the fact that all of a good Catholic island like England should no longer be Catholic. It should be Protestant. And he declares that all Catholics are Protestant overnight. And that in that, some of the Catholics that are a part of that kingdom, mostly because he wanted to divorce Anne Boleyn, most of the people went along with that, but some who truly believed in the power of the papacy and the Catholic Church took issue with that, and that began. And later, James the First would come along, and it is James who was king, and James was only with Parliament once a year at the opening day of Parliament. And so they had planned in April to blow up Parliament when Parliament opened for the season. Both him and a guy by the name of Robert Catesby and some other people that they began to put their work together. And it is an incredible story and an incredibly intrepid story. They rent a house next to Parliament and they bring their explosives in, and they tunnel underneath Parliament and the House of Lords, and in order to place their explosives there. Now this is they're discovered. They're discovered by a little old lady, but they manage to buy her out. They end up renting the room, her room and her place, and which actually gets them even closer to be able to place their explosives. But in April, plague strikes, and because the plague is in London, there is no coming together of Parliament, and it goes on and on. Again, they're supposed to gather in June. It does not happen, and it is only until November. But they're already in. They're already committed. They have to replace 2.5 tons of explosives. They have to go in and replace it because it sits in the basement so long of Parliament that it gets wet, and they have to go in and take the wet powder out and put the new old powder in. And this is all much of this is falling on Guy Fawkes, because he's the trigger man. He's the explosives guy. But the team around him was like a Force 10 of Navarone kind of guys. Guy Fawkes himself was a mercenary. He spent 10 years fighting on the continent for different causes for the Pope. He was called. He was so fierce. He had actually a foreign moniker. He was called Guido Fawkes because it was kind of a fighting name in those days. And so on the 1st of November, things get out of hand, and they realize somebody has spilled the beans. Somebody that was in the circle of those conspirators that was going to Parliament, that they cared for and they loved, that was going to be blown up in that whole thing. Remember, this is all a Parliament. This is all, and most of the nobility are going to be blown up on this night. And what happens? They are discovered because somebody loves one other person enough to say, don't go to Parliament on the 5th. You see, their plot is foiled because that letter is then taken to the king, and the king begins to pursue them, and Guy Fawkes is arrested, as well as all of the other plotters. as well as all the other people connected with it. Catesby is hunted down in a house. He tries to raise the banner of revolution and nobody comes. And he's gunned down, and his compatriots are rounded up, and they are executed in the most gruesome of early 17th century ways of disboweling and castration and burning, and kept alive long enough to suffer some more. This was standard practice for revolutionaries in that day. This 5th of November. That now, still as a way of indoctrinating, I think, the young. It was incorporated to become a holiday in England, and it's a holiday tonight. There will be, even though I know there are massive lockdowns in England, I guarantee you there will be people defying lockdowns out there, burning bonfires. That and what happens is they not only have bonfires and they have fireworks as this symbol of the burning of the conspirators, but they actually bring a stuffed mannequin of Guy Fawkes with his little mustache and the whole thing and his hat, and the highlight of the evening is they burn Guy Fawkes in the fire. I don't know about you or what. I don't know. I mean, I didn't go to Sunday school. I wasn't a part of Sunday school, but this is a little different than the faith I learned in Sunday school. It was a little different than the nice, warm, fuzzy lamb holding Jesus. This is a little different than how things are portrayed in our scriptures and the way in which what you might hear me preach on any given Sunday. This seems like a good old spirited debate between the virtues of Protestantism and Catholicism. Yeah, friends, because when power and control become a part of this cocktail, it becomes pretty deadly. As power and control, whenever it gets a part of anything, does. And I also think, though, that this is a wider reality. And why I wanted to tell you this story today, because one, I think it's in many ways it's adopted. You'll see Guy Fawkes masks out there of people that are in a part of kind of the anti-government movement. But to remember that Fawkes and his conspirators were actually trying to put a 9-year-old queen on the throne, the 9-year-old Catholic who would come to reign over England. You see, they weren't favors of liberty. They were favors of their own form of control. I talk about this today because I think we're in the midst of all of this. We're in the midst of these overarching systems of control, and we're working them out. But really, what I wanted to tell you and remind you is that this faith that you're a part of, and however you define that, whether you're Protestant or Catholic, or whether you're a part of our church here, or however you define this being a part of the Christian walk, or even if you don't define it that way at all, that we have our beautiful books of faith. This is my Bible from seminary. This is my seminary Bible. It had all kinds of stuff in it. I continue to use it and carry it and love it and hug it and call it George. And it expounds all sorts of things, but it also expounds all manner of rough stuff. There is genocide, there is grit, there is grotesqueness, there is rape, there is horror also within its pages. But it points us towards a love that is so beautiful, a love that is so transcendent, a love that is so majestic and so elegant that it's beyond anything you and I can encounter. And we hear the stories of Guy Fawkes, and we hear the stories of Protestant kings and Catholic kings fighting, and we shake our heads in ridiculousness because in if we hold that just a little bit of raise our eyes towards the path of Jesus the Christ, it all looks like children playing over toys in a toy box. But that doesn't mean doesn't cause real pain. It certainly did to the conspirators of the 5th of November. And so my invitation to you today is to remember that your most beautiful faith, your most glorious faith, those moments when you have been most elevated in this world and most filled with righteousness and with goodness and with love, are also playing themselves out in the grittiness and the most baseness and the most harshness and the great savagery that humans can also manage upon one another. That God's hand has not abandoned any of us in the grittiness and the grind and the potentates and the kings and the fear and the workings and the graspings for control that exist in our world. You have not been abandoned. And that in the mix of all of those things is the light of Christ guiding us on, is the peace and love and innocence and joy of Christ Jesus working in the hearts and the moments and the beings. You see, because it was one heart, one betrayer that loved somebody else enough to say, don't show up on the 5th of November, that saved all of those who had been blown up, that foiled the plot that would have destroyed the King of England. And I don't know, maybe it would have been a better thing if Fox had been successful. I don't know. I'm sure the Lord can work with that too. But what I am sure of is that the love of one person for another person, in the midst of the gnarliest, most painful, most savage grit of life, is actually the very salvation of the world. And that's not far from you or me. That is not remote from you or me. That is not a 415-year-old story that I just told you. That is your story and my story right here and right now. Remember the 5th of November, the gunpowder treason and plot. I see no reason why anyone says it ever should be for God. Would have been better if I got that right. Peace and grace to you, my friends. Know that no matter what the savagery you've encountered in your life, no matter the plots that thicken to destroy, you are loved, you are surrounded, and that one simple act of love can save the whole world. Thanks for being with us this week. We'll come back at it. We'll be worshiping at 10 a.m. Right here on Facebook Live and at 282 Rock Street. Hope you will join us for one of those. I am grateful for all of your journeyings and your parts to be with us in these days. Peace and grace to you all, my friends.